You're taking a look inside Kansas politics. Welcome in. I'm Rebecca Chung. Kansas lawmakers are on recess after a busy session tackling everything from abortion to elections. Now the governor has just a few weeks to decide whether to give her stamp of approval or not. Joining us today, we have political analyst Bob Beatty to break down some of the biggest items on the table. Bob, thank you for joining us.
Well, it's great to be here, Rebecca.
Well, first, let's start with abortion. Several bills in the legislature came up regarding this issue this year, and one on the governor's desk is the Born Alive bill. This bill requires emergency care and provides legal protections for infants born alive after a failed abortion. This bill also creates criminal penalties for doctors who fail to provide immediate care. The bill sparking the first abortion debate in the legislature this year, and while there was some disapproval, it still passed with a veto-proof majority in the House and Senate. So even if the governor vetoes it, the legislature could likely override that veto. What are your thoughts on this bill now that it's in front of the governor?
Yeah, the abortion issue, of course, is an interesting one. A lot of people thought with Roe v. Wade being overturned, hey, now abortion is illegal. We know that in the states across the United States, that now abortion is an issue in every individual state. In the state of Kansas, actually, the voters voted that they did not want the legislature essentially to ban abortion. I think this surprised a lot of anti-abortion folks and legislators in the state of Kansas. They have their feet back, you could say, and now we're seeing abortion bills in Kansas and other states. I want to point out with this particular bill, 34 states have enacted similar type of bills, so a lot of legislatures have passed these kind of bills. One interesting note is in the state of Montana, which is a Republican state, the bill was actually put up for a vote for the whole state, and the voters rejected it. So interesting dynamic there. And you talked about penalties. So yes, if there is a child that is born alive and the doctor or caregiver does not try to save that child, the penalties could be probation up to 2.5 years in jail. If the doctor or caregiver actually does something that could cause the death of that child at that point, an overt act, the legislation says we're talking 12 to 14 years in jail. And from what I read, that's what in Montana the voters really didn't like, the idea that in this horrible situation, doctors being possibly sent to jail. And so the people for this bill saying this is simple human rights, the baby has a right to live, and those against the bill say that they're arguing that the proponents don't understand late-term abortions, really, that these children that are being possibly born alive are just suffering from horrific medical conditions in which they may only be alive minutes, and families argue they want to be able to mourn with that child in the last few minutes rather than rushing them to the hospital. That's the both sides of that.
Right. And you also talk about that historic vote that happened last year in August, where Kansans overwhelmingly voted to uphold abortion rights, but we're still seeing this sort of legislation come up. Do you think that we could continue to see it in the future sessions?
So just last year, Kansas had, I believe the number is 15 or 16 restrictions on abortions, which involved clinics and regulations and various bans. And you know, how many is too many for the anti-abortion folks? There is not too many because their ultimate goal is to ban all abortion. But if they can't do that, that they're going to keep chipping away at all sorts of various different things, and as is their right, you know. And so in that sense, I would say if we see 1, 2, 3, 4 this session, we may see another 4 or 5 in the following session. Really, though, an interesting dynamic is having a Democratic governor, Laura Kelly, and really then we get into whether she vetoes these abortion bills and then whether they can be overridden.
And I know the Attorney General's office says that this bill is likely to be challenged in court if it's enacted. Do you agree? And if so, what could we see happen now that the state Supreme Court is also considering another decision? That's
right. There's already been arguments really in front of the state Supreme Court questioning their previous decision in which they argued the state Supreme Court ruled that there's a right to an abortion in the Kansas Constitution. And what was interesting, Rebecca, is that several of the justices openly talked about, hey, saying, didn't the people of Kansas vote on this? So that's in some of the justices' minds. So I do think much of this abortion legislation, if it's passed and makes it into law, will be challenged. And then really it's a matter of the state Supreme Court saying, does it violate that right to an abortion, which I think they're going to continue to stand by, at least for the next few years.
All right, Bob. Well, when we come back, another bill stirring controversy this year defines biological sex. Some say it enforces protections for women, but others say it's taking aim at the transgender community. Will this bill become law? We'll tell you after the break. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
You think knowledge is a powerful weapon? Here, you'll have plenty of ammo. We turn intelligence into tactical success. Explore more than 200 careers at GoArmy.com.
I'm traveling down the Amazon with a team of Success Vision employees. We're here to give free glasses to people who don't have access to eye care. This trip wouldn't be possible without you, our customers. When you choose Success Vision, you choose to help people all around the world. So thank you for making this possible. My name's Nathan, and I'm a Success Vision store manager.
Two pair for $39 in an hour for less. Come see us today, Success Vision Express.
The story of Grace Med has always been told through its people, both those who serve and those who it is our honor to serve. We meet at the intersection of compassion and vulnerability, bringing health where there was illness and hope where there was despair. Our patients come to us bearing the weight of living in the margins, and we share the love of Jesus Christ with them by providing compassionate quality health care for all their physical, emotional, and spiritual needs. Because health restored is always hope renewed. Find hope today by scheduling an appointment with Grace Med.
Shop, dine, relax. We have it all. Fairlawn Plaza, all together better.
This week's Morning Coffee Club prize is a rain gauge, sponsored by Kansas 811. Sign up at ksnt.com for your chance to win. Then watch 27 News weekday mornings from 5 to 7 to see if you've won.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. I'm Rebecca Chung, joined by political analyst Bob Beatty to talk about some of the controversial bills sent to the governor's desk this session. Bob, one establishes the Women's Bill of Rights. Now, this bill would define words like woman, man, mother, and father based on biological sex. Supporters say it's a step to protect women's rights and privacy in areas like sports, restrooms, locker rooms, and domestic violence centers. But opponents say it erases protections for transgender and non-binary people. We've had both sides come in on the show to explain where they stand. Take a listen.
Why would we wait for someone to themselves have their privacy stripped of them? Why would we wait? So instead, let's define what we're talking about, and then let's have the conversation about where there should be women's spaces and where there shouldn't, because this is still going to take a little bit of time.
I think it's just sort of framing the issue in the incorrect way, because there's lots of reasons that people want privacy in changing spaces. And instead of antagonizing trans people and making it seem like trans people and our bodies are the issue, I think we should kind of reframe what we're talking about when we're talking about privacy rights.
Now, Bob, first, let's talk about what would happen if this bill was put in place. Some have referred to the language as broad when it comes to these restrictions.
Well, yes, there's a bit of a problem in the sense that regardless of the transgender issues, there are a certain percentage of Americans who are born with some, some medical conditions, or just born in a certain way where, it's difficult to assess where they would fit in the definitions in this bill, and that can be up to 2% and of all Americans. And when we're talking about this bill, a lot of the language from the bill actually is similar language that's been used in other states. It actually emanates from a group from out of state that is an anti-transgender group, and that's fine. But the point is it's part of a sort of a national push right now to really address they're arguing the transgender issue, and on the other side is the people that say that it's isolating transgender people, especially children, at a time when they can be very, very vulnerable. So it's a very, very emotional issue. There are some who say that this is something that can be best dealt with on an individual level in an individual school district or an individual park situation. But the ramifications are, if it's passed, then it requires all state agencies to define women or men based on their reproductive systems at birth. And it could essentially ban transgender people or those who don't fit the definitions from going to bathrooms or locker rooms in parks and prisons and a wide variety of other places that state agencies are in charge of. So this is sort of the big issue in 2022, 2023, just like gay marriage was 10 years ago, and it's a very, very emotional one.
Okay, and where do you think the governor stands on something like this?
I'm not laughing about the issue. I'm laughing because sometimes you and I talk about things, what will the governor do, and sometimes it's hard to tell. This is not a case where it's hard to tell what the governor will do. She has been very outspoken that she does not like these bills that apply to transgender individuals, and I'm quite sure she will veto it.
Okay, and after the break, we'll have some rapid fire questions coming up. Everything from election changes to protections for child sexual abuse victims. Stay with us. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
Mental health is about emotional health and brain health.
Healthy children and families.
And a healthy Kansas.
Go to acmhck.org to find your local community mental health center.
Hi, Clay Sherwood, Swims and Sweeps. I'm here with Frank and Dean, the CEOs at CUTE, and we're here to show you our wall of fire. We have Hearthstone wood-burning stoves and fireplaces. Frank and Dean just can't get enough of the Hearthstone stoves. We have electric fireplaces, a variety of gas-burning fireplaces, both vented and non-vented. We also clean chimneys. So let Swims and Sweeps keep you warm this winter.
Everything about a big truck crash is serious. At Devon James, we give these cases the urgent attention they demand.
As soon as you call us, our truck response team jumps into action, gathering evidence, talking to witnesses, getting police reports, and reconstructing the accident.
In order to build a powerful legal case for you, we're your on-the-scene big truck team.
So if you've been injured, call the real truck lawyers at Devon James. Truck crash? Devon James wins. Call 888-8888.
Have a cute kid? Sign up today at KSNT.com and we may feature them in the news. Watch 27 News weekday mornings to see if we feature your kid. Cute Kid of the Day is sponsored by Bonkers and Sunset Zoo.
How'd you sleep last night?
I would have slept better if you weren't snoring so loud.
Everybody knows I don't snore. Well, this will help you wake up.
Oh, thanks, babe. You know just how I like it.
So, what are we gonna do today?
Our show.
Oh, yeah.
And we're live in 3, 2, 1.
Good morning, everyone.
Welcome to Live with Kelly and Mark.
From co-stars in Life to co-hosts on Live.
I can't wait.
Weekdays at 11 on 27 KSNT.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. I'm Rebecca Chung. Bob, let's take a look at some of the other bills that are on the table for the governor. One would set up a presidential preference primary for March next year. Now, shifting the cost off of political parties and onto taxpayers. Will the governor veto the bill?
Boy, I'm not going to answer that question right away, but hopefully I'll get to it, or make me get to it, because this is a really interesting topic. Because Kansas has not had a presidential primary. What the parties have done is had caucuses, and there's been complaints about the caucuses, but by and large the key to the caucuses is that the parties run them, and the voters and the citizens of Kansas don't pay for them. The parties do, and then they get to be in charge, and they tend to get, you know, around 10, 15, 20% turnout, and actually the Democrats ran an all mail-in caucus last time around with ranked choice voting, which was really interesting. But all of a sudden, you know, in the last few months, the parties said, we want to do a primary. Okay, primaries can get higher turnout, but the big key is that the Kansas taxpayers have to pay for it. It's run by the state. Now, you may say, okay, big deal. We're talking possibly $2, $3, $4 million. But here's the thing, Rebecca. These are party primaries, so think about that. So who doesn't get to vote? Unaffiliateds. They make up sometimes as high, given the year, of 1/3 of all voters. Now, the parties will say, oh, you can show up if you're unaffiliated and change parties. You're no longer unaffiliated. So I'm saying, no, unaffiliateds don't get to vote. So you're automatically cutting out 1/3 of all Kansans, essentially, to be part of this. And also, the turnout is still not going to be that high. So even if it's 40%, which is high, it may not be 40%, half of all the party voters are not going to participate. So we had a number of legislators, a number of Republicans actually saying, you know, there probably is some better ways to spend $3 to $4 million. Why don't we just let the parties do it like they have been doing it? I'm a little bit flummoxed as to why this is happening, and the only thing I can come up with, which is the parties don't want to spend the money and they want the people of Kansas to pay for it. Now, to your question about will the governor veto it, I don't know. She claims, she argues that she's very conservative with tax dollars. On the other hand, her party, the Democrats, are for it. And so, you know, she very well could sign it and say, hey, both parties wanted it, I'm bipartisan. She could also easily veto it and say, hey, I'm looking out for your tax dollars, all you people who don't participate in this, you unaffiliateds and you non-primary voters, I'm looking out for your tax dollars.
Okay, now another bill extends protections for child sexual abuse victims seeking justice. This passed with overwhelming support in the House and Senate. So will the governor also support it?
Yeah. Again, I'm smiling because it's a relatively easy question, and the reason is that this is one of those rare cases of bipartisanship, and overwhelming bipartisanship, and both the House and the Senate were overwhelmingly behind this, and the governor is. Again, I'm not the governor, but the governor is going to sign this. I just don't see any scenario where she doesn't, and it's really a good example of the testimony that the legislature heard, the stories of child sex abuse survivors, and then the legislature responding and coming up with what most people agree is a better bill than was there before, and a better system for reporting these abuses going forward.
It was definitely an issue that was in the spotlight this year. And another big ticket item, tax cuts this year. Will the governor support a bill eliminating the state's food sales tax? I think we know the answer to this one.
Well,
right?
Certainly the governor is going to support that. The devil's going to be in the details. And again, the governor argued in her re-election that she was middle of the road, willing to work with Republicans. So Republicans, what they're doing, Rebecca, is they haven't really wanted to hand her a straight up and down, hey, let's get rid of the food sales tax quicker than we already are going to. The devil will be in the details, in the sense that is she going to have to swallow something she doesn't like, but still to get a quicker elimination of the food sales tax. I think she really, really, really wants to sign it, but she may have to veto it if they give her something really onerous that goes alongside with it.
Now, what about education? I know school choice was a big topic this year. Will the governor support a bill extending state tax dollars to private schools?
Well, again, Rebecca, it depends on what's in that bill. What most legislatures do is if they have a governor that wants one thing and the legislature wants another thing, put both of those things in a bill and then say, well, you're not going to get what you want if you don't sign the entire bill. So, you know, what we may see is the voucher issue in a large bill that includes a number of things that the governor really, really likes. So, again, it's really a matter, this is why it's getting really fascinating, right? It's really a matter of how far to the right on that middle of the road the governor is willing to go. If the legislature is willing to give her something in that road, is she going to be willing to give them something that's they've also put in that road? In this case, you're right, it's this voucher issue, which she does not support. but are they willing to entice her to sign the bill with some things she wants?
Okay, and when we return, we'll take a look at one of the items that didn't make it to the governor's desk. Hint, hint, marijuana. How soon could it be back on the table for lawmakers? We'll have the answer to that coming up. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
New sound cleans ears, and for tax month, we're saving you money. Call for an appointment. We'll waive the office fee, provide a free evaluation, and Dr. Bryan will clean both ears for the price of one. Practice good ear health. Call today.
When the focus is quality of life and meaningful memories, turn to your trusted source for compassionate care. Good Shepherd Home Care and Hospice, Manhattan's only local nonprofit hospice provider. Good Shepherd, providing comfort and support in your home or ours.
At 2 Men and a Truck, we'll treat you and your belongings like we'd treat our own grandmas.
Here we go! Hi, welcome.
Whether we're moving you across town or even across the country.
Congratulate the class of 2023 by submitting your high school senior photo to our website. Go to KSNT.com for more information. Sponsored by Highland Community College.
We all make choices about alcohol. Kids make choices whether to drink or not.
Bye, Dad.
Bye-bye.
Remember, I'm going to Alex's party tonight and sleeping over.
Have fun. Hey, remind me about that party again?
And adults make choices whether to talk about it. That's true of parents and every other trusted adult in a kid's life. Kids want to know our expectations, and they want honest answers in everyday conversations. So talk with your kids and help lead them on a positive path. Because when you talk, they hear you.
Reserve your ticket for the 6th annual St. Jude Dream Home Giveaway for your chance to win this house built by Drape Homes in Aquarian Acres in Topeka and valued at an estimated $560,000. Reserve a ticket by April 20th and you'll also be eligible to win other great prizes, including a $10,000 gift certificate to Carpet One Floor and Home. To get your tickets, visit KSNT.com or call 800-846-2640.
Celebrate Earth Day at the Topeka Zoo on April 22nd.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. I'm Rebecca Chung. Bob, we've talked about some of the items in front of the governor, and one that didn't make it to her desk this year, marijuana. It's been tabled this year. When could we see that come back up?
Yeah, Rebecca, I think if we went to some previous shows we've done or interviews, we'd hear that phrase, it's been tabled this year, over and over and over. And that's the way it is with the marijuana issue in the state of Kansas. It's just one of those issues that the Republican legislature, specifically the leaders of the legislature, they do not want to see happen. And what's an interesting phenomenon is that every legislative year, at the end of the session, they argue, well, we don't have time for this. So if right now they started, they wouldn't be able to say that next year, but I'm not holding my breath. What I mean is that there's no will for the marijuana issue to be seriously addressed in the legislature among the leaders, and that's their choice, and ultimately it's the choice of the voters. The voters are for legalization of medical marijuana, at least in the state of Kansas, but the voters have to hold the representatives accountable, and maybe there's other issues that are more important to them, but it's just not going to happen this year. I don't see it happening next year, and unless there's some indication that the will of the Republican Party leadership is there to have it happen, and I don't know what would change that. I guess a change in leadership could mean that, but that'll be a few years from now.
And this could probably change the landscape of what's going on or what they're focusing on. Is that what you're saying?
That's true, and it's just such an interesting topic because we have in Missouri, gambling is still not legal, and then in Kansas, people are going wild, which is, fine. And then in Missouri, now marijuana is quite available, shall we say, but Kansas is building the fences to make sure it doesn't happen here. So Oklahoma, of course, medical marijuana is legal as well, and Colorado. So Kansas is the holdout, and there's some in the legislature that are bound and determined they will continue to be for quite a while.
Okay, and that was your look inside Kansas politics. If you want to keep up to date on all things Kansas politics, then follow us on social media. Follow us on Twitter at InKansasPolitics. We'll also post the full video on YouTube. Just search KSNT News and check ksnt.com/inside-kansas-politics for past episodes. If you have a story you want Kansas state legislators to hear, let us know. We'll see you here same time, same place next week.